peace with God and forgiveness were all the love I've ever found. Comes like a flood, comes flowing down. At the cross, I surrender my life. I'm in all of you. I'm in all of you. Where your love ran red and my sin washed white. I owe all to you. I owe all to you. Here, my hope is found. Here, on holy ground. Here I bow down. Here I bow down. Here, arms open wide. Here, you saved my life. Here I bow down. Here I bow. At the cross, I surrender my life. I'm in all of you. I'm in all of you. Where your love ran red and my sin washed white. I owe all to you. I owe all to you. I owe all to you. I owe all to you, Jesus. My hope is found here on holy ground. Here I bow. Here I bow down. Here, arms open wide. Here, you saved my life. Here I bow down. Here I bow down. Here, my hope is found. Here, on holy ground. Here I bow down. Here I bow down. Here, arms open wide. Here, you saved my life. Here I bow down. Here I bow There's a grace when the heart is under fire. Another way when the walls are closing in. When I look at the space between where I used to be and this reckoning, I know I will never be alone. There was another in the fire standing next to me. There was another in the waters holding back the seas. Should I ever need reminding of how I've been set free, there is a cross that bears the burden where another died for me. There was another in the fire. Nobody, now the power lives in me. There is another in the fire. Oh, there is another in the fire. Oh, there is another in the fire. Oh, there is another in the fire. There is no other name but the name that is Jesus. He who was and still is and will be through it all. So come what may in the space between all the things unseen and this reckoning, I know I will never be alone. I know I will never be alone. There'll be another in the fire standing next to me. the joy come every battle, 'cause I know that's where you'll be.
Good morning, Eastpoint. We're glad you're with us today. Those in person, welcome. Good morning. Those online, we're glad you're here with us. You guys can be seated as the band cleans up and the students are dismissed. We just have a couple of things to let you know about today. May 4th, which is coming up, we're going to have our first Saturday at 9 a.m. at the church house. We're going to be doing a prayer meeting and a work day, right? Both at the same time. So we'll be praying while we're working. May 5th is our next Communion Sunday. And then we're looking forward to May 12th, celebrating Mother's Day. It's going to be a great time to celebrate the mothers in our lives. We're just super excited about that. If you haven't texted Eastpoint to 94000, you should do so. Get you connected and plugged into the things that we like to share and communicate here at Eastpoint. And then, as always, you can give your offering at eastpoint.org/give, or you can drop your offering in the basket out on the table in the cafeteria. And with that, JD.
Some little music behind the whole time. This is the last week of our Easter series. So you're like, Easter? Yeah. Every Sunday is Easter. So this is our last week of it. We're going to wrap it up. I probably should give a disclaimer. Some of you might be angry with me by the end of this service today. Some of you might feel confused or like there was a bait and switch when it came to hiring a pastor. It was hard in some ways for this week's sermon because I knew that I was going to be delving into stuff that is challenging, but it came together quickly, and I'm going to be inviting you to deal with some cognitive tension for the rest of your life. And so that might be part of why you don't like some of what we're doing. But we're looking today at a new mission that we would have. And the 4 weeks that we've been doing this, so the first week we looked at, that we have a new life. The resurrection gave us new life. The old was passed away and the new has come. And then we looked at how with that, even our past has been redeemed. That what we've done and all that, all that's forgiven, and we don't have to carry that burden anymore. We get a new family as part of the deal, which is each other, whether that makes you smile or cry, that's up. But we get a new family, and most importantly, where God is the Father. And today, as we look at this new mission, we're going to look at, with the resurrection, there is a new way to live. Because he says that the old is gone, the new is come. We have a whole new way that we need to live, and we're going to look at that today. It's like, well, what is this new way? Does our salvation, if we want to put it in those terms, because our salvation, we refer to the fact that with the resurrection, because Jesus was resurrected, but not everybody enjoys the benefits, right? Because it says if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, then you will be saved. And so we say that the resurrection is what did it, but we have to commit to that. We have to get behind that. And many people say, no, don't believe the resurrection, don't believe what's there. And so they don't enjoy the benefits of the new family, of the new being and stuff like that. And they don't have the commitment necessarily to a new way of life. And so we'll look at that. To understand that we have to look at the old mission. What was your mission before Christ? It's pretty simple, really. It's me. That's what is important. Our highest goal, essentially, becomes self-gratification. See, some people are mad already, and I haven't even gotten to the difficult part. I didn't mean it, Bryce, really. They want to make sure that he doesn't start out on the wrong foot. We better not have him hear this when we're singing. But no, we are the natural way. And this is one of these things that I say, we don't need to be looking at people and say, oh, you're so that, or if a person's not a believer, say, oh, you're just all about yourself. Hey, we all are. We all are. See, one of the hard things to understand about salvation, because we were joking last night with Xander and Megan, and we were talking to them about some theology. I said, why don't you explain to me the Trinity? Because it's one of those questions that any person that's wise will go, because only a fool's going to jump out there and say, well, here's what the Trinity is. It's an egg. It's a 3-leaf clover. Oh, wait a minute, there's a 4-leaf one. Let me change the theology. No, it's like the Trinity is really hard to explain. Well, what's else hard to explain? You have a new self, but you hold on to the old self. They're both there. And we don't lose the old self completely until we have been glorified. And by glorified, I mean until we've been this, because we're in this process, what we would call theologically, right now you're being sanctified. And sanctified is kind of that process of, it's a transitional period. And how long is that transitional period? Well, I guess the average is about 75 years now? Is that about the average lifespan these days? 72? I don't know. I'm not a good judge because since I've joined the senior center, I thought the average lifespan was about 85. But I don't think it probably is, but I love going to a place where I'm the kid. Remember Finding Nemo and the seagulls? Mine. That's the old mission, right? What can I get for me? How can I make it so I get all that I want? How can I take care of me? When I used to teach at the Y, we would have these different, we'd have to go through like an in-service type thing. And I remember at one of them, they were, it's kind of like an icebreaker thing. They wanted to do this game, and you're familiar with the game because they'll say, would you rather you be, the one question that really struck me, would you rather really enjoy your coworkers at your current pay or not care who your coworkers are, not get along with them, but get like a 50% increase in salary? And like 3/4 of the group goes diving over for the more money. And there's a few of us standing over there saying, I kind of like the people I work with, and it's just more fun. Because and we have these things. See, the old way says, whatever I can get for me is important. It was funny because I was looking up, just out of curiosity, I looked up online self-help books. And like a gazillion lines are there. You can just go, it's like then you have to sort of break it down with, Amazon, A-Books, the different book sources that you might go to. And they're just loaded with it. So I put in there, others help book, helping others books, all the different ways I could come up with it. And you know what the main things that I found were? They were things like how helping others helps you. And, helping others will boost your success. And a number of things like that. There were a few about, how do you help somebody who's going through depression? But by and large, the helping others books were about helping yourself. And I'm not saying that's wrong. I think it's natural. It's what you were born into in this world. You were born into the world, and it makes sense that you are going to be caring for yourself. You know, that is certainly understandable. You know, I am much more concerned about me getting an ice cream sandwich than I am about you getting one. You know? Why? Because I like ice cream sandwiches, but I don't have any. There's none hidden anywhere at home. They're all gone. I've eaten them all. But you know, and it's like, you think about, you hear somebody won the lottery, you're like, oh, that's good for you. But if you won the lottery, you know, you're wetting yourself. You're just like, oh, I can't believe it. You know, I didn't even buy a ticket and I won the lottery. But it's, you know, that's natural. That's to be expected. Because the new life is going to be very different. When Paul was talking to the Ephesians, and he's explaining about how you have a new life, and he starts out by saying, do not walk in the way of the Gentiles. Now, don't hear Gentiles as just people that are non-Jewish. Hear that as, don't walk in the way that the world does, in the way that people who do not follow God walk. Because he says, because they have some, and he goes on with it, but then he gets to the point where he says, they have become callous and have given themselves up to sensuality, greedy to practice every kind of impurity. Because that is the natural progression of selfishness. See, one of the things that we know is that our appetites, and Andy Stanley puts it so well, he says, they are never fully and finally satisfied. And as long as we try to satisfy our appetites, it will become progressive. You'll need more of something. Isn't that what we see with the drugs, right? The pushers will be more than happy to give you a free first sample, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to ignite that appetite so that you'll come back for more and then more, because it starts to take more to get that same feeling, to get that euphoria, to get it. And then after a while, you need that not for the euphoria, but just to fight off the other stuff that what you feel, which is you start to feel so terrible. But it's like we end up, we grow these desires until they consume us. That's the natural way. This is what happens. If you watch that with kids, it was Sophia, our granddaughter, she's wild. She's a little pistol, you know. It's like she's just one of these, like, I just say, I'm just glad I'm a grandparent, not a parent right now. You know, it's like one of those types of things. And every once in a while, you're going to hear, oh, my stomach hurts. Because all day long, she's going, I'm hungry, you know. Here, have some green beans. No, I'm not hungry for that. You know, it's like, you know. And then her appetite says, give me the sweets, give me the goodies, give me the stuff that's going to be junk for me. And then goes, oh, I don't feel well. You know? And I feel bad that she doesn't feel well, but I sit there and go, well, are you surprised? You know? This is the natural progression. This is sowing and reaping. This is how, you know, when you walk down a path, you know where you end up at the end of the path. That's where you end up. You know, it's like Judy and I almost missed one of my nephew's weddings because we put into the GPS the church address. And it's taking us down some back dirt roads around these places. We're like, I don't think the wedding's down here. It was within eyesight of our hotel. But we didn't know that, so we're driving all over the place, show up halfway through the wedding. It's bad form, don't do that. But, yeah, this is what happens. But so what he says, after that, he says, put off your old self, which belongs to your former manner of life and is corrupt through deceitful desires. You know what makes the desires deceitful? Because they're desires that are saying to you, take care of me and I'll take care of you. You indulge in me and I will make you happy. I will make you feel good. And you know what? It's a lie. That's why it's a deceitful desire. What it will make you is perhaps that little shot of euphoria, followed by a craving for more. Eventually, what happens is you are a slave to what you thought was going to be your salvation, to what you thought was going to set you free has instead enslaved you. And that is the natural outcome of the old mission. But we have a new mission, which, not surprisingly, it's all about God. It says you need to shift your focus from yourself to God. And it says, therefore be imitators of God as beloved children and walk in love as Christ loved us and gave himself up for us, a fragrant offering and sacrifice to God. Now, if that doesn't sound like a high standard to you, you're not paying attention. Because he's saying be imitators of God. You know, that's no small order. It's a big thing to do. And he says, how is God? And then as we get into the controversial part of it, because he's saying, you have a new mission, you have a new way to walk, and what's that going to look like? And along comes this guy named James, who would upset Martin Luther so much that he wanted him to be removed from the Bible. He wanted the book of James to be extracted from the Bible. Because James says, what good is it, my brothers, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Can that faith save him? And those of you that have really clung to the, soli fide, that faith alone, and saying that's so important, and it's such an important part of who we are that we're like, no, JD, you're not going to stand here today and talk to us about works, are you? I am. And I'm going to talk to you about things that, as Protestants, that you might really want to kick against and fight against to say, no, JD, I know. It doesn't matter what I do. And you even said to a minute ago, if you confess with your mouth and believe with your heart, that I'm good to go. What we used to call saved and satisfied, It's like I've done my part. And he follows this up with a story. And he says, don't you remember Abraham and Isaac? That Abraham said that he was a man of God, that he had faith in God. And God says, go sacrifice your son. And Abraham goes out to the place that he's appointed to and gets ready to sacrifice his son. Whatever you think about that story otherwise, Isaac is saved, the sacrifice isn't done. And James makes the point, can't you see that the works that Abraham did, his action of following through, is what made the difference? He could talk all day long about how he believes in God, but unless he follows through, it's empty. That's an empty thing that he's saying. And it's, I think that we don't like to think about that very much because it comes with the idea that as followers of Christ, there's an expectation on us. There is. One of the things that I think where the pendulum has swung in Western faith especially, is that we're so big on grace and it's important, and that is so important. And I believe that you are saved by faith. But that does not mean that there's not an expectation of what you will do with that gift, what you will do as a family member. Because I'm a strong believer in family members contribute to the family. When they're this age, their contribution is that they're the cutest ones in the family, And they allow you to change their diapers. So that's, But as you get to your ability to contribute, you are to contribute. I'm not saying everybody has to pay rent and things of this nature, but there's a family endeavor. And he's saying, if you are in the family of God, there is an expectation of works. Jesus said, before you were born, God had good works that he made for you. He's got specific good works. This is where it really gets fun. You see that a person is justified by works and not by faith alone. This is where Martin Luther was just about pulling his hair out. Where some of you are going, that's not really a verse in the Bible, is it? There's not a verse in the Bible that says you're saved by works and not by faith alone. Well, next, when you can find your Bible and dust it off, take a look and see if that's not in there. Because it is. Now, I don't think that what James is talking about here is that by doing the work you are saved. I think what he's saying is that by doing the work you are giving life to your faith. You are showing your faith. Because you can say, I love my kids, and be nothing but hateful to them. And anybody looking on will say, you don't love your kids. You hate your kids. You can say all day long, you might even believe that you love them, but your actions tell us something different. They say something different completely. And I don't know about you, but this is like a regular exercise for me, is to stop, to evaluate my behavior for a period of time, and then say, regardless of what you're thinking or feeling internally, what is the evidence telling you? Who are you really? Because we sang, at the cross, I surrendered my life to Jesus. And I encourage you, take a day, take today, take yesterday, take tomorrow, and observe your own behavior and say, does this look like the life of someone who is completely surrendered to a different power, to a higher power, to God, to the one who was resurrected from the tomb? Or does this look very much like the life of anybody else who was living by an old mission that says, I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to get what I can get for me. What does it look like for you? See, the works are just an organic thing that would grow from true faith. They're not something you strive for. And to me, this becomes the great schism between the grace and the works, the faith and works, because it's not faith or works, but it's faith demonstrated through works. Because if you have that true faith in God, there will be things that change organically, things that change automatically within you, and your life will become different. And if you're looking at your life and saying, you know what, there has been no change in my life since I started following Christ, then I encourage you to really ask and say, are you a follower of Christ? Are you really? Because Matthew has a scary, scary passage in it where he says, they're going to come to me someday and say, Lord, Lord, I did this and that for you. And he's going to say, depart from me, I never knew you. And others are going to come and he's going to say, enter in. They're like, Lord, I wasn't even so sure you were real. He says, when you took care of the orphans, when you went and visited the sick, when you visited those in prison, when you took care of others and gave a glass of water to someone in need, he said, you were doing that to me. I'm not going to pretend that I know what all of that means, other than, hey, there's going to be some surprises. There's going to be surprises because some people are just going to be so sure, I'm in, I am a good person. I do it, And God's going to say, what are you talking about? You never really trusted me. You never had faith in me, because the faith that you would have would cause there to be a change in your heart. He says, I took away your heart of stone and gave you a heart of flesh. That you should be feeling differently, that you should think differently, which will result in your behavior being something that doesn't even make sense at times. If your behavior always looks completely logical and like, yeah, that's the right thing to do, that's what anybody would do, then I would say, you better check closely what's going on, because God asked you to be a little crazy. You know? People that follow Christ closely look a little nuts. You know? John, I don't know how many people have been watching that, the thing about the disciple, the chosen. But if you've been watching, if you haven't watched it, I strongly encourage, if you have, remember the guy that played John the Baptist. I mean, this guy looked like he walked out of the back ward of a psych unit someplace, the way they make him look, you know. And I'm guessing that's probably not that far off from what was going on, you know. And lots of people thought John the Baptist was nuts. The guy's out there wearing some sort of weird clothes, eating bugs, you know. What is up with this guy? How is, you know, but God calls us to weird things sometimes. He calls you to do things that don't make sense. He calls you to put others ahead of yourself. You know, that just doesn't make sense, does it? He calls you to love your enemies. How stupid is that? You know? What is this it's like, God, you're setting up life so I will fail. And my personal belief is the only way you're going to win is by failing. Because until you come to the end of yourself and the beginning of God, you don't really trust him. Until you do things that scare you to death. Because it's like, this doesn't make any sense. Until you say no to your own desires because you recognize in your heart that he has given you that new heart, that this is more pleasing to God than the thing that I want to do. And that's hard. And yet, without those works, I agree with James, your faith is dead. Without that evidence, I look at, and you're like, well, JD, what are these works we're supposed to be doing? What is that? Like you're trying to tell us that if we don't come to church, we're in trouble? Not at all. Not at all. I think so many of the things that we focus on as works are things that God just is not bothered by. He's not focused on. Some of them are, some of them aren't. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such thing there is no law. This is, and God does that thing. He starts to give us these categories. When you make a decision, is it reflecting these things? See, and I don't think that I can earn my way to heaven by showing up here. I think that by showing up here, I get to be with others who help strengthen my faith. I get to be around family. See, I don't become more a member of my family if I come to family reunions. I want to go to family reunions because I want to be with my family. I think that as we come here, we are pleasing God. We're saying, I might be able to find something else I want to do on a Sunday morning, but I want to be with my family. I want to get together. And we can put that in any context. Actually, as I look around, you guys are faithful. You guys come here. So I think you get that part of it. But you're going to have to look in your own life and say, where is it? Where is it that I'm saying what I want, not what God wants? Where am I not stepping up and saying, at the cross, I surrendered my life? And it's a hard thing to do. And there's, like I say, there's lots of examples, lots of verses that will show us things. If you're saying, well, what are these good things? First of all, I would say, just Go ahead and read your Bible about some things. You will run across so many things, you're going to be like, man, this is impossible. And it is. It is. Apart from God, these things are impossible. But through him and through the way he changed you, some of the changes that he has decided to make in my life, I would have said, there is no way. You know, I used to always hate parties because I was kind of terrified of people, especially those of the female variety. You know, they just scared me to death. I couldn't talk to them. He's like, you know. God has, through different ways, it's like now I'll get up and talk to you guys. Now I embarrass women with the things that I say. You know, it's like when they used to embarrass me if they said, hey, JD. You know. Those who belong to Christ Jesus have crucified the flesh with its passions and desires. This is a good litmus test. Have I crucified the flesh with its passions and desires, or have I fed those passions and desires? Because he says, those that belong to Christ. And I don't think we should be taking this lightly. Because if you consider yourself a Christ follower, you consider one of those that he is coming back for. He says, you know who those people are? These are the people who have crucified the flesh and those desires. Now, let me be real clear. This does not mean you're going to achieve some sort of perfection, that you're not going to sin and fail. That's where, to me, some of the grace comes in that's so wonderful. Because he lets us over and over again come back. But it also means that over and over again, we're having to crucify that flesh. We're having to say no to self. We're having to learn again and again and again. And you know what the real rub of it is? It's not even usually like we get new ways in which we're sinning. We just have our pet sins that we go back to over and over again. And we get upset with ourselves, and then we say, I'm not worthy. And it's only when you get to say, I'm not worthy, that you start to become back into his grace, because that is true. Your natural way is unworthy. He says, stand at the cross and surrender it all and allow me to be the Lord of your life, and I will lead you into things. And I talked about the natural consequences of the other stuff, that it ends up that we become slaves. He says, this is the way you become free. You don't understand it. It doesn't make sense. You know? But he starts to say, you think it's not fair that this person get away with what they did to me. And he says, don't worry about that, what person's getting away with. You're the one in prison with the hate that you're holding on to. You're the one who's suffering because of the grudge. I want to set you free, so love your enemy. Do good to those who persecute you, so that I can set you free. It doesn't make sense to you, but that's okay. You got these little teeny-weeny minds, and I am God. He says, I have got ways that you can't understand the transformation that is possible, the amazing things that are possible through your life. He says, my son came to earth, was treated horribly, and then died. And he rose again so that you could have that. I've gone through an awful lot to make it so that you can become free of those chains of sin. I.e., the old mission, the old life, the old self. I had a professor, Dr. Dick Moline, and he would talk about how the old person, the old self, is like this body that's strapped to us. We get the new self, but we somehow have the old self there strapped on our back. And when it feels like that old self is crushing us down, what we discover is that we're feeding the old self that's stuffed on our back. We're filling them up, and they get heavier and heavier and weigh us down. But when we don't feed the old self, but feed the new self, there is new strength for carrying and making it through, and for working and getting rid of that old self as it shrivels and decays for the day when it is finally cut free altogether. So what are you feeding? Are you feeding the old self with those desires, those gratifications, that self-gratification? Or are you feeding the new self, which results naturally in life, in fullness? He came that you would have life and have life to the full. If your life is not full, and I don't just mean full like I'm busy, but I mean that internally your soul is filled up to the brim and overflows to bless others, then perhaps you're feeding the wrong self. And time to take a look at who are you going to feed? What are you going to do? And if there are no works that demonstrate your salvation, question, do I really believe? Do I really believe in who he is? Or is that just words for me? Let's pray. God, I thank you that it is so overwhelming how much you love us, how much you've made available. What a great parent you are, that you don't just give us what we want, but you give us what we need. That you direct us into the life that would be most beneficial and profitable for you. And Lord, you know we can be extremely rebellious children. We can ignore the advice that you give to us and the direction and the leading and leave ourselves into situations that are miserable. And yet you are there to take us back, to give us grace, and to remind us that you have a path and a plan that will lead to life and greatness, that we will have a new life, and that everything can change. I thank you for that, and give us the strength to look at ourselves honestly and you faithfully. In Christ's name, amen. So, go and feed your new self. There's places out there.